Hello everybody, my name is Fearlxss, and today we're going to be doing the Survivor perk tier list. The last time I did a tier list was a little over a month ago when I was ranking all of the killers based on how good they are. And I decided it's been a really long time, a month is quite a while. So we're going to be doing another tier list. All right, our first perk is Prove Thyself. Now, these are not in order. I would have put it in order based on like when they released and everything, but yeah, they just came like this when I got into the tier list. I'm pretty sure it has Sable's perks. I will be ranking Sable's perks even though they're not out yet. Because, I mean, they told us what the perks are going to be doing. So, alright, Prove Thyself. It used to be... I don't really remember what the original version was, but it didn't just do repair speed, it did, like, everything. Even exegates, I believe. And then it did 15%, now it does 10%. 10% is quite a bit, and it's per survivor, so you get 10%, and the person doing it with you gets 10%. I'm going to go ahead and place this in A tier. Unbreakable. Now, I think Unbreakable is an amazing perk, but it's very, very situational. A lot of the killers I go up against personally don't slug too much. It's just like, it's very uncommon in my lobbies in particular. It's definitely not F, of course, not D, not C. I'm going to give it a good B, because it's very, very good when you get to use it, but it's like maybe 1 in 20 games, in my lobbies at least. We'll make it. I don't really see anything wrong about We'll Make It. It's a perfectly balanced perk, lasts 90 seconds after you can hook someone, and you get 100% heal speed on everyone else. I give this a solid A. Windows of Opportunity. Good for beginners. The bad part is you have to buy it from Kate Denson, but at least she's an original survivor, so you don't have to pay real money. You could just use iridescent shards. We're not going to go off of pricing here, though. I don't want to let that sway me. Anyways, it's a very good beginner perk. It's just... it's a very good beginner perk to teach you where everything spawns, and even if you're a pro player, it's still amazing for you, too. I'm going to give this S tier. Like, if you're planning on going to Shack and being like, oh, the pallet's probably there. If you don't have this perk, you're not going to know until it's too late. Because, with my solo queue teammates in particular, they love to waste Shack pallet at 4 to 5 gens. Hope. Now, these perks are going to be by themselves, right? I would say Hope's like S tier, because you can combine it with Blood Pact and get 14% haste in the endgame and be faster than all the killers. I mean, killers are 115 and you'll be 114, but let's be honest here, they're not catching you by 1%. But they're going solely by themselves. By itself, you're already faster than Huntress, and I think Hag. Does Hag move 110? I think she does. But yeah, you're already almost as fast as those killers. I mean, I wouldn't give it S tier personally. It only works during the end game, so that's the big activation thing. You got to do 5 whole gens before you can actually do it. I'll give it A tier. Corrective action. I mean, we don't need to talk about this one. It's F tier. If you don't know what it does, basically, you have to hit a great skill check and get a token, up to 5 tokens. And each time a teammate that's repairing a gen with you or healing with you, if they miss a skill check, it takes one of your tokens and makes their bad skill check a good skill check. It's not worth it. Maybe in my lobbies, because my teammates usually hit literally 0 skill checks. They always miss them all. Lucky Star. I believe that's the name. I'm not reading any of the names of these. They're not written down. I'm just going to go off of memory. So if I don't know the name, I don't know the name. But I know what all of the perks do. When you get inside of a locker, you have no grunts of pain and no pools of blood. I don't really see the point of having no pools of blood because you don't leave pools of blood when you're in a locker anyways. It's not like they pour out. Actually, they should. Pools of blood should like pour out of the bottom of the locker if you're injured. But yeah, you leave no grunts of pain and no blood pools for 10 seconds while you're in that locker. And when you exit the locker, you see the aura of all your teammates for, I believe, 10 seconds. Very good to pair with head on, but again, we're going by itself. I gotta say, and if it's by itself, it's kind of bad, because usually you'd use quick and quiet and get in there mid-chase to, like, mask your grunts. But it's by itself, so I'm gonna have to give it D tier, I'm sorry. Circle of Healing. Of course, if it was the old circle feeling, it would be S tier. You can no longer heal yourself, but it's still really, really good. I'm gonna put it in B tier because it's a boon. It already takes 16 seconds, I believe, 14 to 16 to set it up, and then the killer can easily snuff it out, and it takes less than a second for them to do that. So that's two bad things right there. You can see your injured teammates inside of it, which is good, and you can heal them at 100%. I do think we'll make it's better than that, because we'll make it only has one activation requirement, and that's you have to unhook someone. After that, you keep it for 90 seconds. The killer cannot get rid of it. Saboteur. Even if you're not using this for sabotaging, you still see where every hook is. You can see if the killer has scored hooks, because they're highlighted in yellow instead of white. And it only takes 2.3 seconds to sabotage a hook. I think this is B tier, personally. I wouldn't say A tier, because the killer can easily just avoid you and go to another hook if they see you doing it. It's not that hard. The hooks are not very spread apart in this game. On some maps, they are, though. Stakeout. If you don't know what it does, basically, for each 15 seconds you are in the killer's tear radius, you get a token, up to 4. And when hitting a good skill check, it consumes a token, and that good skill check becomes a great skill check. And I'm going to point it out one more time. I might point it out multiple times just in case people skip through the video. But the perks are being rated by themselves. Like with Hyperfocus, this would be amazing, but it's by itself. Oh, it also adds 1% bonus progression for great skill checks, which doesn't really matter too much. 1% is probably less than a second. I'm going to give this a solid C tier. Distortion. I was looking at a tier list earlier. I'm not going to let any of the rankings on that one sway me to change mine. But I just want to point out, someone put Distortion S tier, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it A tier. And in my killer tier list, I didn't really explain too much why I was putting things in certain places. Maybe that's why people are kind of mad. I cut all that out because it was like 3 hours long, and I did not want to have my video being 3 hours long. Who am I, Otsdarva? No. Anyways, Distortion. This might be a long video, by the way. We have a lot of perks to go through. But Distortion, you start off with 3 tokens. Amazing. It gives you tokens off the bat. That already brings it up. A lot of killers are just whining and complaining about Distortion. It's like, dude, stop. Do you know how many overpowered perks killers have? I'm not saying killers have more overpowered perks than survivors. Survivors and killers equally have very overpowered perks. Distortion is not too strong. It's really not. You have to be in the killer's tear radius for, I'm pretty sure, an entire 30 seconds, maybe 15. But I'm pretty sure it's an entire 30 seconds. Now, unlike Stakeout, you have to be in the killer's tear radius, but you can't be in Chase. If you're in Chase, you're technically in the tear radius, but it will not go up on your timer. Distortion, you can be in Chase. So if it's a Scratch Me or Myers, you can technically get stacks back, but you have to be in Chase with them. Because he technically has a tear radius when he's chasing you. So that's really good about Distortion too. If you don't know what Distortion does, I should probably say that. It hides your aura whenever it would be red. So if the killer has Lethal Pursuer, you'll see it at the very beginning of the trial. It'll immediately make a sound cue, and then it will highlight. And also, when it activates, your scratch marks are hidden for 10 seconds. So if you have if the killer has I'm all ears and you vault a window, you pretty much have a 10-second dance with me. If you don't know what dance with me does, then we'll get to that later. I would put little markers in the video, but there's so many perks, it's gonna take too long. I'm not really a professional YouTuber. I just do it for fun. So I'm not gonna put an insane amount of effort into it, Kindred. This is an amazing solo queue perk. And even when you're not in solo queue, it's still amazing. If you're bad at describing things, your teammates that are in a call with you, they're gonna know exactly what you're talking about. They're gonna know exactly what you're talking about. If you don't know what Kindred does, when someone else is on a hook, you see the killer's aura within 16 meters, and then you see all of your teammates' auras. And when you're on the hook, your teammates see the same thing. They see everyone else's aura, and they see the killer's aura within 16 meters. And, I mean, I have to give this an S tier. I have to give it S tier. I'm a person that plays solo queue a lot because my friends are playing other games, or they're just in the party playing another game. Same thing. Anyways, it's really helpful in solo queue. If you're ever making a solo queue build, this is one of the perks that you should probably always have it in there. It tells you where the killer is, tells you where all your teammates are. You know, it's amazing. Built to last. You know, I'm going to put everything in S tier and just slowly move it down when I'm describing it. Built to last, whenever you get inside of a locker for 12 seconds, I believe, your item refills up. So if you have an empty item in your hand, get in a locker for 12 seconds, it refills. And then if it runs out again, you can do it a second time, but it only goes to 66%. And then you can do it a third time, and then it goes to 33%, and then it's over. So it gets 3 uses, one of which is 33%. I don't think that's worth it, really, unless it's maybe a med kit with a bunch of charge add-ons on it. But yeah, it's not S tier, it's not A tier, and I don't even know if I'd put it in B tier, personally. Because that's 12 seconds. That's 12 seconds that you could be doing on a gen. Unless your item is like an engineer's toolbox, this is not worth it. So I'm bringing it down from B2. First of all, you have to empty your item. Which, I mean, you're going to be using your item anyways, so that's fine. You have to find a locker, and then you have to sit in a locker for 12 whole seconds. 12 seconds is a long time in this game. 12 seconds could mean you win or you lose, pretty much. You could be doing a gen for 12 seconds instead of doing this. Because you won't have to find a locker, and you won't have to sit there for 12 seconds. You're probably going to get like a good 20% on a gen. The only way I could see this as useful is if you have an engineer's toolbox with 2 charge add-ons. That's the only way I could see this being used. But again, it's the perk by itself. It doesn't matter what item you have. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna leave it in C. I'm gonna leave it in C. Vigil. Very underrated in my opinion. It gets rid of every single negative status effect 30% quicker. And it stacks. So if you have it, and your teammate has it, and they're next to you, it will go down 60%. And so on. If all 4 of you have it, I'm pretty sure that's 15 seconds of exhaustion. Might be a little bit more. I'm not good at math. But yeah, if all 4 of you have it, and you have, like, let's say, head on. Again, we're not going off of other perks. By itself, Vigil is actually not too good. But let me just tell you, with head on, this is amazing. I would put it in S tier, but, you know, it's by itself. By itself, it does nothing. It literally does nothing if it's by itself. It does nothing by itself because, I mean, you just have it. If you don't have any exhaustion perks, doesn't do anything. If the killer doesn't have the new Sloppy Butcher, doesn't do anything. So it's going in F tier. But listen, if we were going off of other perks, I would put this S tier. It would go all the way up. But by itself, it does literally nothing. Flip-flop. Flip-flop is another one that's like, you know, it's very situational, like Unbreakable, right? And let me put it up here for now and then move it down. It's very situational, which already brings it down because it relies on what the killer does. So like Windows, that has nothing to do with the killer. Kindred really doesn't have anything to do with the killer. They just have to hook someone. And all these perks in A, except for Flip-flop right now, has nothing to do with the killer really. Because even with Distortion, you can get your stacks back with a Stealth Killer. But Flip-flop is very situational. If you don't know what Flip-flop does, when you are on the ground and you recover, and the killer picks you up, whatever you had your recovery bar at, let's say your recovery was at 50%. It takes half of that and reverts it into wiggle progression. So if you're at 50% recovery and the killer picks you up, you're going to have 25% wiggle. Again, with other perks, with Power Struggle, if you die in a pallet and you're able to get 30%, that goes down to 15, and if you have Purple Power Struggle, you free. But again, by itself, it doesn't do much. If the killer slugs you and lets you get your bar pretty much full, that's 50% wiggle. You're wiggling free pretty much guaranteed if you're in a good spot. But if the killer picks you up immediately, it does pretty much nothing. It gives you like maybe 1% wiggle. So I'm gonna drop it down to C. Head on. Head on with Quick and Quiet is great, but by itself, I mean, it's just like if you're trying the most of the time you use head on, you would use it in chase, right? You'd go around a corner, quickly get in with Quick and Quiet, stun the killer when they finally notice that you've gone inside, right? without quick and quiet, I mean, slow vault. You have to slow vault, and I mean, if you're slow vaulting, the killer's gonna see you probably. I'd probably put this A tier normally, but without quick and quiet by itself, I mean, I think I'll drop it down to B. Personally, what I think they should do with head on, they should make it to where whenever you're inside of a locker and, like, let's say a teammate's within 32 meters of you, or let's say 24. I think if you're inside of a locker with head on and the 3 seconds have passed, every teammate within 24 meters sees the locker's aura in yellow. That way, if your teammate's being chased, they can go to that yellow locker and you can stun the killer. That would make head on infinitely better. Head on would immediately go to S tier if that was the case. Second wind. After healing someone fully, the next time you're unhooked, you heal after 20 seconds immediately. So you have to fully heal someone, right? You have to fully heal someone, which already takes it down because it has a very, very, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's not that easy to activate, right? If you're found first in the match, you're not getting this off unless the killer leaves you. So again, it relies on the killer. So what you need to happen is the killer needs to hit someone and then leave chase with them or hook them and then you unhook them. You need to fully heal them. So if you're like 90% on the heal and someone else joins in and heals some, they get some of that percentage. So you didn't heal them fully because your teammate helped. You literally have to be the only one healing them. So I mean, it goes down there too. But when you do get it off, you get healed after 20 seconds after being unhooked. Which sounds good, but if the killer's tunneling you, they're going to put you in deep wound, right? And this will heal you still, but it will heal your deep wound. So you'll be injured still. It will just get rid of your deep wound. I'm going to put this in C tier. Inner Strength. Another perk that requires an activation. You have to cleanse a totem, and then it activates. If you were injured, and you get in a locker, it heals you immediately after 8 seconds. So it's really good for healing, but you do have to cleanse a totem. It can only be used up to 5 times because there's only 5 totems on any map. One time I actually had a 6th totem on a map, and it wasn't Pentimento. It was just a glitch on RPD. There was a sixth totem. I don't know if they fixed that bug or if I'm just dumb, but I'm pretty sure I cleansed 5 totems already. But I'm going to have to give this, the activation of getting the totem. It can only be used 5 times, which, to be fair, I don't think you're going to need to heal 5 times in one match. So, I'm going to put an A. It's a solid perk for healing yourself. See, with Inner Strength, you can heal yourself in 8 seconds. With Second Wind, you have to heal someone else, and then be hooked, and then get unhooked, and then heal after 20 seconds. So, I mean, it's infinitely better than Second Wind. Any means necessary. Again, it relies heavily on the killer. You can pick up downed pallets after 4 seconds. And every downed pallet you can see highlighted in yellow on the map. Again, it really requires the killer to do a specific thing. If the killer doesn't break pallets, you can pick them back up and use them against him later. But once the killer notices, like, let's say for whatever reason they don't break the pallet at the top of the stairs in RPD, you're going to pick it up. And if they remember that that pallet was dropped earlier, they're just going to start breaking every pallet so you can't do it again. So if the killer's smart, you can use this one time maybe. Again, if you could use smash hit with it, that would be great, because you could smash hit, get really far away, and the killer might not want to waste their time breaking a pallet. They might go around it, and you could pick it up later. But by itself, I really wouldn't give this that much when it comes to the rankings. It's not S tier for sure. I wouldn't say A tier either. Then Unbreakable, the killer. The killer can get rid of it. I'm going to give it B. It's a solid B. Buckle up. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, but probably a lot. Again, it really requires the killer to do a specific action. If the killer slugs and, like, 99 someone, you can easily pick them up, and they'll have endurance for 10 seconds. If you don't know what it does, when you heal someone out of the dying state, you both have endurance for 10 seconds. It's really good with For the People, but it's by itself, remember. So by itself, I don't want to put too many in one category, but I'm going to be honest. So I'm probably going to stick it in B tier, because it requires the killer to slug, and it requires your teammate to recover. So I'm going to leave it there. Botany Knowledge. Very solid perk. It's half of Will Make It, and there's no activation cost. You don't have to unhook someone. You heal 50% faster throughout the entire match. When you're using a med kit or any other healing item, it's your med kit or whatever you're using goes down 20% faster. So if you're going to use a med kit with this, add some charges. But yeah, I mean, I think it is just a better version of Will Make It. It's only 50%, not 100, but you do not have to unhook someone to activate it. I will put it in S tier. And some people would be like, oh, high A tier. I meant to say A tier, by the way. I think I said S tier. Some people would move it like the more left it is, the better it is in that tier. I did that with the killer tier list, but it takes up so much time. Like, I'd probably put Botany Knowledge, like, right here if I was doing that, but I'm not going to waste time doing that. I might do it at the end, but it's if I decide to, because look how many perks we have to go through. Quite a bit. Alright, Decisive Strike. Back in the day, it was a 5-second stun. You didn't have to be hooked to use it, and you could use it during the end game. All of those are completely different. It doesn't work in the end game. You have to be unhooked to use it, and it only stuns the killer for 3 seconds, which I think it should go back up to a 5-second stun, just because you getting off of the shoulders of the killer is already like 1 second, so it's really just a 2-second stun if you think about it. Back in the day, it would be S tier. I don't even think it's really good for anti-tunneling, though. I'll leave it A tier, because I've had so many tunneling killers recently. Like, I don't know why. It's just the killer is always better than me when I'm survivor, and my teammates are dog shit. And then when I'm the killer, the survivors are gods. I don't know why it's like that. It's just like my teammates are always bad when I'm the survivor, but when I'm the killer, survivors are gods. I don't understand why. And I always get tunneled, too, because I have a Prestige 100 character. And, I mean, Odds Darva says you should go after the weaker link first, but I don't think that's true. You should go after the people that have more hours first, right? Just to get them out of the way. But then there is that part where they might loop you for 5 gens, so maybe you don't. It just depends. But it's really good for anti-tunneling. If you miss the skill check, it does deactivate, though. So that's something to keep in mind. But I do think it's A tier still. Light-footed. I mean, another one of Ripley's perks. It's probably going to go right next to our other one. If you don't know what it does, it makes your footsteps silent, which is okay in like an indoor map. But if you're on, like, let's say Dead Dog, the grass around your feet still makes noise. The grass makes noise. Your footsteps don't, but the grass that's hitting your feet do. Also, when performing a fast vault, it deactivates. I would say, like, you could window tech. Like, let's say you jump through a window, move to the left, the killer vaults it, and you move back to the right. They're not going to hear your footsteps, so they're going to think you're still that way. But it deactivates when you vault. So, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put that in D tier. Dead Hard, the infamous perk. I would say A tier back in the day, you know. You have to be hooked, which you're probably going to be hooked in a round anyways, so I'm not going to move it from S tier quite yet. It's very... Okay, if you don't know what it does, after being unhooked, it activates. And when you're injured and running, if you press the activate ability button, when you press that button, when the killer's about to hit you, it gives you half a second of endurance. So you want to time it. Right when the killer is about to hit you, while you're injured and running, you press the activate ability button, and you have half a second of endurance. Which, you'd be like, okay, I'll just wait for the killer to be in the swinging animation, but it sadly doesn't work like that. It really requires heavily on ping. It's very reliant on ping. If you have bad ping, you should not use Dead Hard. It's probably not going to work right. I'm going to drop it down here real quick. It's very heavily required by ping. Like if you have like, let's say if you have 20 ping and the killer has 0, I mean the killer's hitting you pretty much guaranteed. I've had so many moments where someone's dead hearted and I hit them during the animation, but they get down anyways. I mean, it's just like, it's very heavily ping influenced. And because of that, Dead by Daylight does have pretty bad servers sometimes too, so I'm gonna put in B tier. Quick and quiet. Boom. For now, it might go lower. Quick and quiet. Whenever you sprint vault, or if you sprint into anything, if you sprint into a locker or out of a locker, over a pallet or through a window, it is silent, and then the perk goes on cooldown for 20 seconds. By itself, I think there is some potential here. I never used it by itself personally. I always use it with head on, but again, it's by itself. You could probably sprint vault into a locker silently and then bamboozle the killer. Like if you're about to go down, you might as well get into a locker with it and then stump the killer for a couple seconds, but then they're going to see your pools of blood are, gone and everything, and they're going to check the locker eventually. But, I mean, it is good to bamboozle the killer a little bit. I'm going to leave it in C tier. Cut Loose. If you don't know what Cut Loose does, basically, after you vault in chase, it activates for 6 seconds. During that 6 seconds, whenever you vault, your vault is silent. And then it reactivates for another 6 seconds. So let's say you vault a window, it activates for 6 seconds. If you vault another window within that time frame, that vault is silent, and then it resets the 6-second timer. Fogwise. After hitting a great skill check while repairing, not healing, while repairing, you can see the killer's aura for 6 seconds. So it's alert, but it's on command pretty much, and it's 1 second longer. So you have to hit a great skill check. If you're good at skill checks like me, that's a good thing. I mean, it's really good. And you just get to see the killer for free. And now, I know no one's going to agree with me, but I'm putting it in S tier. It's just free wall hacks. Now, if you're not good at skill checks, I can see why you wouldn't want it in S tier, but it gives you free wall hacks if you're good at skill checks, and I am personally good at skill checks. I hit great skill checks all the time. So I'm putting it in S tier. For the people. This perk lets you insta-heal someone, but it makes you injured and broken for, I believe, 60 seconds. It might be 80 seconds, actually. It's 60 to 80 seconds, but it makes you broken for a long period of time. By itself, I don't really see the potential there. Like you could stun someone with you could stun the killer with a pallet after he downs someone, and then you could insta heal them, but it's very situational. And again, it makes you broken for such a long period of time. Unless you have Vigil, which we're not connecting perks together, it's not that good. I'm going to give it C tier. Lucky Break. After being injured, your pools of blood and scratch marks are gone for 60 seconds. And then every second you spend healing someone else, you get a second back. I think this is a great perk. I think it's an amazing perk. If you're in an indoor map, this is very amazing. Again, that's a bit situational. If you're on like Colden Farm, this is horrible. If you're on any other map that's really open, like Azerov's or Macmillan, it's horrible. Now, there are certain jungle gyms that you could lose the killer at. I am going to give this a solid A tier. Now, keep in mind, it gives you back a second for each second you spend healing someone else. If you're injured, the timer still goes down. So make sure when you're healing someone else, you are healthy. That way the timer can actually go up. Balanced Landing used to be the best exhaustion perk in the game. Well, not counting Dead Hard. After dropping from a great height, the stagger is reduced by 75%, and then you get a sprint burst after that. You get 3 seconds of 50% haste. So, let's say you're on... Now, let's say you're on Rotten Fields. That only has, like, 2 heights. It has both the Harvesters. I don't even think there's a hill on Rotten Fields. There might be. But, like, let's say on Wrecker's Yard, or Azerov's Resting Place for Auto Haven, there's 1 hill. That's the only height, I believe. I mean, I don't think it's very good. It's definitely not S tier. I wouldn't say A tier either. I do think it's better than Dead Hard, personally, though. Because, first of all, the killer has to drop down. So if you're in a building upstairs with a gen that's almost done, and you just run through and drop down, that gen's getting done pretty much by your teammates. And then the killer will probably... The killer's going to think you're going to have stagger, so they're probably going to swing to try to hit you, which is going to waste their time even more because you're going to be long gone. I will put this in A tier. Background player. It used to be pretty mediocre. Now it's actually insane. If you don't know what it does, after the killer picks up a survivor, it activates for 10 seconds. During that 10 seconds, if you sprint, you go at 200% speed for 5 seconds. I'm going to give this S tier, which I know a lot of people might not agree. I think most people would probably put it A or B. But if you're good with flashlights and flashbangs like I am, again, flashbangs are, again, another perk. But firecrackers aren't. If you have a firecracker or a flashlight, this is very good if you're able to use them right, that is. A lot of my teammates just shine the flashlight at the killer's cheeks and hope that works. And I mean their butt cheeks. Their actual cheeks might actually blind them, but, you know. Dark Sense. Dark Sense used to be really horrible. It was pretty much like a shitty version of Bitter Murmur. Anyways, Dark Sense, whenever a gen's completed, if the killer comes within 24 meters of you, you see their aura for, I believe, 10 seconds. It might be longer. It's either 10 or 15, that's all I know. But, so, you can only use it 5 times, which already really sucks. So that makes me want to put it here for now. The killer has to be within a certain range of you, which, again, kind of does suck. And you only see their aura for 10 seconds. Fogwise is better than that. You can activate it on you have to be on a gen, yes, but the gen doesn't have to be completed. You can activate Fogwise like almost an infinite number of times. This can only be activated 5 times. I'm going to slap this in C tier, probably. Yeah, it's on par with those perks, pretty much. Streetwise. Again, I mean, by itself, it's not too good. If you combine it with like Scavenger and Built to Last, it would be good. But by itself, not S tier for sure, not A tier, not B tier. I could argue that it's not even C tier. If you don't know what it does, it makes the charges of your items last 25% longer. So, if you had a flashlight the last 10 seconds, it would add 2 seconds to it. That's math, right? I think so. It would add 2 seconds to it. If you have a green flashlight, that's pretty good, but overall, I don't think this is very good. I'm going to have to put it D tier. It's definitely better than these. Vigil is amazing again, but by itself, it does nothing. I wish it did. Wiretap. After doing 50% of a generator, if you go up to a gen, you can press the activate ability button 2 on it. And if the killer comes within, I believe, 24 meters of it, you can see their aura until they kick the generator. Now, you can put this on a gen with no progress, so then they can't get rid of it. So if you're like in the main building of a map and you put it on a gen with no progress, that's really good. I would not say it's S tier, but it does give you constant information on the killer if they're like, let's say you're looping the killer around a gen with no progress with wiretap on it. That's amazing. A tier. Desperate Measures. A lot of people probably don't use this perk ever. Desperate Measures. For each injured, dying, or hooked person, it gives you 14% healing and unhooking speed. So if everyone's injured, it's 56%. Now, with 56% unhooking and healing, that's amazing. I would probably say A tier. Because, again, people have to be injured for it to activate. But if they are, it's insane. But, yeah, it requires your teammates to actually be injured. I use this perk a lot. Like, the 56% unhooking speed is amazing. Like, let's say during the end game, you have everyone injured. You can unhook real quick. And then, like, dead hard immediately after. Because you're going to have enough time. Like, let's say you're healthy, you're going for the unhook at the end game, the killer hits you, and then you unhook, that 56% will save you because your teammate, you can go behind your teammate in time for them to body block. It's very good. Soul Guard. After recovering from the dying state, you get 8 seconds of endurance. Very good with Unbreakable, but again, by itself. If the killer has a Hex, you can recover from the dying state by yourself. But again, that requires the killer to have a certain perk. It's not S. I wouldn't say A either. Recovering from the dying state is not easy in this game because the killer has to slug to do it. I'm going to give it a C. A solid C. Leader. I think Leader is very underrated. It lets you do almost everything 25% faster, not vaulting. Imagine if it was vaulting, that would be insane. So if you... it doesn't work on yourself like Vigil does, sadly. I wish it did, but that would be insane. So, let's say your teammate has Leader and you're next to them. You open the exit gates 25% faster, you unhook 25% faster, you heal 25% faster, you open chest 25% faster, cleanse totems 25% faster. You do almost everything 25% faster. I think it's very underrated. It's definitely not S, but I would say it is A tier. We'll make it. The old version would definitely be S, but the newer version, I'll give it a C. You get the 3% haste when in Deep Wound. So if you're getting tunneled, you get the haste. But again, you only get Deep Wound for 20 seconds. Well, if you're running, the bar doesn't go down, but you're not going to be running the entire time. The killer's either going to down you eventually or leave you. You'll have to mend eventually. Now, if you heal someone, you get endurance for 10 seconds. Then you can use that endurance to get Deep Wound. But it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do that because the killer has to be nearby to hit you. So the endurance won't matter. Bite the Bullet. I'm going to put Bite the Bullet in D tier. Just right away because you have to have a healing item of some sort. Again, self-care is not going to work because... that's another perk. We're not doing that. And just, again, if you're getting annoyed that I keep saying that, it's because if people skip through the video, I need to keep constantly saying it. But, yeah, I mean, it would be good if you had self-care body knowledge or something. But by itself, it doesn't really do much. You can bring in a medkit with 2 of the charge add-ons, but that's only 2 heals. Only 2 heals. It works when you heal others, but again, that's not really going to matter. Because if you're in solo queue, your teammates are probably not going to go where you want to heal them. So, yeah, Wicked. And yeah, we're going off of the new version, not the one from the PTB. If you don't know what it does now, you should watch my old video. But yeah, basically, if you're hooked in the basement and you attempt unhook, you are 100% guaranteed to escape the hook. Which sounds good in theory, but do you remember the old days of Dead by Daylight? When killers would always run Iron Grasp and Agitation because hooks could be instantly... Hooks used to be sabotaged permanently throughout the entire match if you sabotage it once. So the killers would always run Iron Grasp Agitation to hopefully make it to the basement because basement hooks can't be sabotaged. I think people are going to start running Agitation and Iron Grasp again just because... they want to get you out of the basement so you can't unhook yourself. I'd give this S tier. I'm probably going to give it A tier. Because, like, yes, you're in the basement. The killers might suspect you have this perk because it's a newer one. And if it's like a Bubba, a Huntress, a Trapper, a number of other killers, you're not going to be able to get out probably. If it's a Trapper, they're just going to trap the entirety of the killer shack. But it has a nice secondary effect. When being unhooked or unhooking yourself, you see the killer's aura for 20 seconds. Which I think is amazing, because you can tell if you're about to be tunneled. If the killer immediately goes towards you, you're going to see their aura. Now, if you have comms with some of your teammates, that's not going to matter. They're probably going to tell you that the killer's going to tunnel. But if you're in solo queue, this is great, because your teammates can't tell you. So if you see the killer's aura coming towards you, you have 20 seconds to prepare. You know, you can run away or start walking and leave the area. Very good for anti-tunneling. Off the record. After being unhooked, for the next 80 seconds, you have no grunts of pain, your aura cannot be read, and you have endurance for 80 seconds. I do believe there's another effect. I'm not quite sure. But it's a very good anti-tunnel perk. I'm putting an S tier. Lithe. After sprint vaulting a window or pallet, you move at 150% speed for 3 seconds. So it's a sprint burst, but you have to sprint vault a window or pallet to activate it. I wouldn't give it S. I'm going to give this A tier. First of all, if the killer's chasing you, you go over a window. If it's like a really strong window, the killer pretty much has to go through it to catch you. Like, let's say it's Killer Shack, right? And like, there's a pallet or something. I don't know. The killer, you put distance. You put even more distance than Sprint Burst would, in my opinion. First of all, there's a window or pallet in front of you or the killer. It's better if it's a pallet because the killer is pretty much guaranteed to break it. Like, let's say you vault Killer Shack pallet and leave Killer Shack. The killer has to break it, which already takes, like, I think 2.3 seconds. And then the killer has to chase you, and you have the speed. So you have an obstacle in front of you. You have an obstacle blocking the killer's path, and you have speed. So you're going to have a lot of distance with this perk. Borrowed Time. Used to be a meta perk. Not so much anymore. Against the Deathslinger would be pretty good, though. Anyways, after unhooking someone, they get 10 seconds extra of speed and endurance. I think Borrowed Time, if you have it on and someone unhooks you, it should have the same effect. But it's only for people that you unhook, which kind of does suck, but it's fine. Back in the old days, of course, it'd be S tier. I'm not going to give it A tier either. I'm going to give it B tier. It's good for anti-tunneling. If your teammate's being tunneled and you have this, that will help them quite a bit. Camaraderie. Camaraderie, that's what it's called. When you are in the second hook stage, meaning you have to fight back the entity. I didn't like that motion I just did. If one of your teammates comes within 16 meters of you, your hook timer is paused for 36 seconds. So if your teammate, I've always had those moments where my teammate's right about to get me, and then I just die. If they're within 16 meters with this perk, it will freeze your timer. It's very good during the end game if the killer's camping. I'll give it not S. I'll give it A tier. Exponential. Again, you have to set up a boon, which the killer can get rid of easily, which already makes me want to put a B tier. It lets you recover from the dying state 100% faster, and you can get up, of course. But the killer has to slug, and I don't think it's worth it personally, because you have to set up a boon, and then the killer has to slug. There's already two things, and then the killer can get rid of the boon easily. No, not worth it. Reassurance, S tier. When you are within 8 meters of someone's hook, you can freeze their timer for 30 seconds. So if the killer's about to come towards you and your teammate's about to go second stage, you can freeze their timer real quick and run away. And then another teammate can come by and get them later. It's amazing. It works in second stage too. Object of Obsession. If you are the obsession, every 30 seconds, the killer can see your aura and you can see theirs for 3 seconds. So every 30 seconds, you can see each other for 3 seconds. I'm going to give it B tier. Because there's been so many times where I've gone against someone with object and it screwed them over because I can see their aura and they're hiding. The new perk, one of the new perks, Strength in Shadows. When you are in the basement, they recently buffed this actually. It used to be 60, now it's 70. When you are in the basement, you can heal yourself without a medkit at 70% speed. Now, old self-care was 85. This is 70. So it's 15% less than old self-care, which was insane. Of course, I haven't gotten a chance to play with it because it's the buffed version, but the 60% was already insane. This lets you heal 23 seconds. 23-second heal. The normal is 16 seconds. So if your teammates are not nearby and you're near the basement, just hop in there real quick. Boom, you're healed. I'm not going to give it S tier because 23 seconds and you're in the basement. 23 seconds is still quite a long time. Now, this would be S plus tier if you could put botany knowledge on it too. You can. I'm just saying, you know, in the tier list, we're going off of one perk. If you have, it's already 23 seconds. If you have botany knowledge, that's probably, I don't know, 17, I'd say, just a rough estimate. Then you have desperate measures and resilience to add on to that. Whew. That would be crazy. Still have quite a bit of perks to go. No One Left Behind. I believe that's what this is called. After the exit gates are powered, you gain 100% blood points for altruism, so healing, right? And you see all of your teammates' auras. Again, it's only during the end game, so it already has that activation that I was talking about. It's already B tier. You heal and unhook 50% faster. If you combine those desperate measures, that's crazy. But again, by itself, 50% is still a lot. I think I'll just leave it where it is right now in B tier. I think there's another effect. No, never mind. That's the aura reading one. I said it first, even though it's listed last in the perk description, I'm pretty sure. All right, botany knowledge. Within 128 meters, you can see all injured people. So, almost map wide, you can see every injured person. Just right off the bat, I'm gonna give this C tier. I don't know why my screen keeps turning off. I don't know if you guys see that. Yeah, I'm getting the C tier. I just don't really like empathy very much. Did I call it empathy earlier? I think I called it botany knowledge. I'm not quite sure. It's empathy, if that's what I said. Urban evasion. When you are crouching, you move 100% faster. I'm sorry. D tier. Everyone that uses this perk is just bad at the game. Self-care. Of course, the current version is F. If you know what it does, you know. If you don't, here we go. As I mentioned earlier, it used to heal you at 85%. Then they dropped it down to 50, and now it is 35. It takes you 46 seconds to heal. That is a little over half of a generator. It's better to just stay injured and do half a gen than heal yourself. Overcome. This is the definition of a hold W perk. After being injured, you get a speed boost. This perk makes that speed boost last 2 seconds longer, and then you're exhausted for 40 seconds. So if you're a hold W type of person, good for you, but I'm not personally. So I'm not gonna put it any higher than B. Next perk, small game. After looking at a totem, after looking in the direction of a totem within 12 meters, it goes off. So if you're looking for a totem and you can't see it, like let's say it's behind a wall, as long as it's within 12 meters, it highlights to you. I'm sorry, but by itself, this is useless because why would you cleanse a totem? You know, F tier. I mean, if they have no edge, sure, but again, that's relying on the killer. So, no mither. You are broken the entire match, which means you are injured. You cannot be healed at all. I know it sounds horrible because it is, but the effects that it gives you are pretty damn good. It gives you an iron will, so it reduces your grunts of pain by 70%. You leave no pools of blood. And you can fully recover the dying state, and you do it 75%. No, you can recover from the dying state, and you do it 25% faster. Yeah, I don't know why I said 75. I was thinking of Iron Will. Anyways, this is not F tier. A lot of people probably put it there. I am gonna put it D tier, however, because it does give you some very nice effects. Like having no pools of blood is insane, but it also makes it to where you can't heal the entire match. So, yeah. Resilience. Just going to slap it up here because let me tell you why. When you are injured, you do everything, and I mean everything, 9% faster. Smash hit. A lot of people would probably put this S tier because it requires you to stun the killer. Okay, let me explain what it is first. After stunning the killer, you move 50% faster for 4 seconds. So it's like a Lithe, but you have to stun the killer instead of vaulting a pallet. So first of all, you have to hope the killer doesn't respect. If you don't know what respecting is, it's basically when the killer goes towards the pallet and backs up real quick, and then you drop the pallet and you don't get the stun. So yes, you have to stun the killer. So if the killer respects, not going to work. If you do manage to pull it off, however, you get a massive speed boost, and they have to break the pallet. So it's like Lithe when you vault over it, a pallet. But you get 4 seconds of speed instead of 3. Now, the thing that really makes it bad is that once the killer sees that you have that speed boost, they're probably going to respect pallets from then on. So if they weren't already respecting pallets, they're going to do it now for the rest of the match, probably. I wouldn't call it F, though. I'll call it D. Because if the killer decides not to respect for whatever reason, like they have Enduring in Spirit Fury or something, and they decide to not respect for whatever reason, this is amazing because it gives you 20 seconds of exhaustion. If you don't know, the average duration is 40. Well, the duration for every exhaustion perk is 40 seconds on purple. This is 20. Amazing. I believe this perk is called Poised. After a gen's done, you leave no scratch marks for 10 seconds. I don't think it Hydra pulls the blood. I'm pretty sure it's only scratch marks. So, first of all, it already only activates 5 times. And a gen's going to be done, right? It's only useful if you're in chase, really. I'm sorry, I'm dropping this down to F. Deja Vu. The 3 closest gens together. You can see their aura for the entire match. And you get 6% repair speed on them. I'm going to put this A tier. I'm not going to quite say S. It can stop you from 3-genning yourself. It gives you extra speed. And it's just good information. I mean, there is no downside to it unless the killer has blindness on you. So maybe I might move it up to S tier. I'm thinking about it. I mean, it's clearly not as good as Off the Record or Resilience or Windows, but yeah, I'll leave it here. Fixated. You can see your scratch marks, and you walk 20% faster. I'm going to give this A tier, and let me explain to you why before you get mad. Seeing your scratch marks doesn't matter whatsoever, I know. The 20% speed when walking, though. If you don't know, if you're in chase and you start walking, you will lose chase after a couple of seconds. So let's say you're around a car or something, a car loop. If you just start walking, you're going to walk faster, and you're going to lose chase over, I think, 10 seconds maybe. So just start walking mid-chase. You get speed from the 20%, and then you'll lose chase too. So they won't get bloodlust. It's very good. Lightweight. Your scratch marks disappear 5% quicker, and they're way more spread out. I personally think this is extremely underrated. I'm giving this A tier, whether you like it or not, okay? Like, your scratch marks being 5%, gone 5% fat... 5%. Your scratch marks being gone 5 seconds sooner is insane. If you don't know, scratch marks last, I believe, 10 seconds. So now they last 5 seconds, and they're more spread apart. Adrenaline. No one's going to be surprised about this. This is going in S tier. If you don't know what adrenaline is, once the last generator is done, you instant heal. It heals you 1 health state, I should say. So if you are on the ground, you're injured. If you're deep wound, you're injured. If you're injured, you're healthy. And it also gives you 150% speed for 5 seconds. And for whatever reason, it also wakes you up if you're against Freddy. So as if Freddy wasn't weak enough already, they made Adrenaline counter his entire power. Babysitter, I believe. That's what it's called, Babysitter. After unhooking someone, they get an additional 7% speed for 8 seconds, on top of their already 7%. So they're 114. They're as fast as the killer, pretty much. Also, when you unhook them, you can see the killer's aura for, I think, 8 seconds. There might be another effect I'm missing. I'm sorry if I am. I'm going to give this B tier, though. Now, it's only good if the killer's really tunneling, because if the killer's not tunneling, this is useless, because they're not going to use the speed boost. They're just going to sit there, and you're going to heal them, so at that point, it's useless, but... Resurgence. After being unhooked, You already have 50% on your healing. I mean, if the killer's really close by, this is really good because you can heal pretty much instantly. It's going to take 8 seconds rather than 16. I'm definitely not putting an S or A, though. I'm also going to put this in B. Scene partner. If you are in the killer's tear radius and looking their direction, you scream, revealing their aura for, I believe, 5 seconds. And there is a chance that you will scream again, which will add an additional 2 seconds. This is really good for looping. It's definitely not as good as Windows for looping, obviously, but it's really, really good for looping. Like, let's say you're at a jungle gym, you scream, and you go around the corner. If the killer's moonwalking to mind game you, you're going to see that, and then you can avoid that. So I think it's really good. Detective's Hunch. After a gen's completed, you see, I think, everything within 64 meters. You see all totems, chests, I think exit gates, switches, generators. You see pretty much everything for, I believe, 10 seconds. It might be a little bit longer, but it's definitely not 20 seconds. It's like 10 to 15 seconds. You see everything within 64 meters. I think it is underrated. It's definitely not, I wouldn't call it A tier. I give it B tier because, again, it has the activation where it can only go 5 times. But it really, after it does activate for 10 seconds, that's really good information. Calm Spirit. You know what's funny? When I was looking at the other tier list that I mentioned earlier, they put Calm Spirit S tier. That's embarrassing, bro. If you know what Calm Spirit does, let me tell you. You don't scream. That's good. You don't alert animals. They say wild animals, but there's really only crows in the game, so it just means crows. You don't scream, you don't alert crows. You open chests and do totems silently. So you might be thinking, why are you putting this F tier? You open chests 30% slower, and you do totems 30% slower. Which, the chest part, I don't really care about because it's the chest, but the totems. Now, again, it relies heavily on the killer's perks, but if the killer's using a hex, you're screwed. If the killer's using Plaything, which I've had a lot of recently, you're screwed because you do it 30% slower. Imagine if they had Throw of the Hunt. That's an additional 50%. It's just not worth it. Clairvoyance. After cleansing or blessing a totem, you have this perk activated. You have to have nothing in your hands, so you can't bring an item, which kind of sucks. I mean, you can bring an item in, but you have to drop it if you want to use this. Now, Clairvoyance, you can use it for 10 seconds after it's activated. And when you're using it for 10 seconds, you can see everything within 64 meters. That includes the hatch and the exit gate doors. So if you're going to use this, it's really good for solo queue builds. You just got to cleanse a totem or bless one real quick. But this is going by itself, so you got to cleanse one. You got to cleanse a totem. And let's say the last one left. If you have an item, drop it. If you don't, good already. Hold this button down. Hold the button down and look for the hatch. I'm not going to say it's S tier, but it gives you such a great advantage. I'm going to put it in A tier. Troubleshooter. Very, very, very underrated, in my opinion. This is probably one of the best chase perks in the game, but no one really uses it to its full potential. While in chase, you see the gen with the most progress, meaning when you're getting chased, you can lead the killer away from that gen so your teammates can finish it. That's already amazing right there. Not only that, whenever you drop a pallet on the killer, you can see their aura for 6 seconds. So it's like alert pretty much, but you stun them with it. And now, after chase ends, you still have all of these effects. So if chase ends for 10 seconds, if you drop a pallet, you can see where the killer's going. And then if you have any means necessary, you can pick it back up. Of course, this is going by itself. Gotta remember. But you could drop a very weak pallet after 10 seconds. After the chase ends, you can drop a very weak pallet to see where the killer's going. Because you also see the gen with the most progress for that 10 seconds, too. So if you're on comms, you can tell your teammates that the killer's going there. It's amazing. Open-handed. What this perk does is, every single aura reading ability that you have, it's extended 16 meters. That goes for all your teammates, too. So this is not going off of perks, but your teammates could have perks. Remember that. I would put this in F tier, but because it's going by itself, but it's also for your teammates. So Every single ore reading perk is 16 meters. It used to be 8 meters, but then they buffed it to 16. It's very nice. If you have Bond, instead of 32, I think it's 46. No, wait. That's not math. It's 36 already with Bond. It goes up to 52. So it's already bigger than Wesker's tear radius by 12. But again, it's not for yourself. It's for your teammates because we're going off of the perk on its own, and you can't use perks with it then. I'm going to put it in B tier. Flashbang. You have to do 50% of a generator, which already brings it down in my opinion because, I mean, you're going to be doing gens anyways. But still, you have to do 50% of a generator. You're going to be doing that anyways. It's fine. You have to get in the locker, which does waste a little bit of time, but if you sprint vault in and out real quick, it's not going to matter. You get a flashbang. You have to get inside the locker, craft it, and then get out. It doesn't just give it to you if you get out, but yeah. So you got to do 50% of a gen, get in a locker, get out, you have a flashbang, but then you can only use it once, and then you have to do the process again. And if the killer has Lightborn, it's completely useless. If you miss, it's completely useless. But unlike a flashlight, if the killer's facing a wall and you run to the killer and throw it down, it can bounce. As long as it's in their red stain, it blinds them. So unlike a flashlight, you can get saves against the wall if they're looking towards a wall. So this is great. Sprint burst, best exhaustion perk in the game. I know a lot of you probably got mad earlier because I said Lithe was better. I'm sorry, I did not mean to say that, honestly. I knew what I was saying, but I wasn't really paying attention too much. I said Lithe is better because it makes you get distance and there's something blocking the killer. But Sprint Burst, you can do it on command because if you 99 your if you 99 your exhaustion, if you know what that means, it means your exhaustion bar is literally a sliver away, and then you start running. Your exhaustion will pause. So then when the killer is actually on you and they're about to hit you, you stop for like half a second, and then boom, your exhaustion's gone, you sprint burst away. Amazing. Breakout. If you are within 5 meters, I think 5. If you're within 5 meters of someone being carried, their wiggle timer is increased by 25%. I don't know if it stacks. If it stacks with someone else, that's insane. I don't think it does, but either way, that's insane. If you're nearby your teammate and you have this, they're pretty much guaranteed. Like, if you take one body block, I'm pretty sure they can wiggle free. I'm going to give this a solid A tier. Left Behind. If I put Clairvoyance in A, this is already going down to B because it's just... Clairvoyance, it has a further range. Yes, you do have to cleanse the totem, but it does more than just find the hatch. It does everything. Left Behind, you can see the hatch within 32 meters. You know, I'm going to give this C tier. Potential Energy, I'm sorry, this is going in D. For each 1.5% that you do, if you're holding down the activate ability button. Okay, I phrased that all wrong. If you're doing a gen for at least 8 seconds, I believe, and you hold down the activate ability button, you do Doctor Strange magic. And then for each 1.5% that you do, you get 1 token up to 20. And then next time you release your energy, each token is 1%. So you'll get 20% of a gen done instantly. Now, a lot of people hear that last part and think this perk is good. No. It's 1.5% to get 1 token, but then each token is 1%. So you're losing 0.5% every time. So it's not worth it. You might as well just repair normally. You're getting more percent that way. That's all I got to say about that. Repressed Alliance. After doing a gen for 45 seconds. Now notice, it's not 50% like every other perk. 45 seconds is 50% of a gen. But if someone's doing it with you, that will speed it up. So, you know, 45 seconds. After doing a gen for 45 seconds, next time you get on a gen, if you press the activate ability button on it, it blocks it for 45 seconds. Now, a lot of people would be like, oh, F tier. Why would you want to block a gen? What, you want to finish it? Yeah, you'd be right. It's going in F tier. Alert. I've talked about it a lot in this video, despite it not being here until now. When the killer kicks a pallet, you can see their aura for 5 seconds. Yeah, that's pretty much all it is. I'm putting an A tier because Of course, the killer... Actually, no. It's when the killer breaks anything. It doesn't have to be a pallet. It could be a breakable wall, a pallet, a gen. So, it's really good information, because killers are going to kick gens constantly, probably, because of the new 5% thing and everything. And the new unknown perk that's coming soon. So, yeah, this is really good. I'm just going to put an A tier. Tenacity. I'm sorry for all you tenacity enjoyers. This is going in D tier. When you're in the dying state, you move 50% quicker, and your grunts of pain are reduced by 50%. Again, the killer has to slug you. Right? That's already bad enough. The killer has to slug you. Moving, and it lets you recover while you're moving, yes, but the killer, again, has to slug you. And we're going on the perk alone. With Unbreakable, this would be good, because you could move and then recover, but by itself, it's not good. Soul Survivor. I got called a cheater before because of this perk. Let me explain. Whenever one teammate dies, you get a token up to 3. Each token makes your aura not red within a certain range. So, if one person's dead, your aura can't be red within 24 meters. If 2 of your teammates are dead, it's 48. If all 3 of your teammates are dead, the killer can't see your aura within 72 meters. So if they have barbecue and chili, and you're within 72 meters, not going to do anything. So basically, I was going against a Scratchmere Myers, and like 2 of our teammates were dead. He couldn't see my aura, and he accused me of cheating. And I tried to explain to him what the perk did, and he was just refusing to believe me. Also, if you're the last one in the trial, you open the doors. You open the doors 75% faster, and you do gens at 75% faster. I don't know why you'd want to do a gen unless there's one left and it's like already almost done, but yeah, I'm gonna give this B tier because the effects it gives are so good. Dramaturgy. When running, you press X, just like Dead Hard, or whatever your button is. It's the same as Dead Hard button. You press the Dead Hard button when using Dramaturgy while running and healthy. So that, I mean, already it brings it down because you have to be healthy to use it. You have to be healthy. That already brings it down for me personally. If you're not healthy, this perk does literally nothing. I'm going to bring it down here, actually, because of that. Not only do you have to be healthy, it also only gives you 25% haste rather than 50, like most exhaustion perks give you. So yeah, it gives you 25 instead of 50 for 2 seconds instead of 3 seconds. So it's really not good. And then 4 effects could happen. I believe it's 4. You could scream, but nothing happens. You could get exposed for 12 seconds, which is a big downside of this perk. You can get a random item, or you get the speed boost again for an additional 2 seconds. So then it would be 4 seconds. I'm sorry, the downsides of this perk okay, I'll give it C. I won't give it D. Dance with me. After vaulting a window or pallet, or exiting a locker in a sprint, you leave no scratch marks for 3 seconds. I'm sorry, but this perk, I think it's completely useless. Okay, I wouldn't say completely. I think I'll give it D tier. Because, like, if the killer sees you vault the window, they're just going to look which direction you run. So your scratch marks aren't going to matter unless you're in, like, swamp and it's hard to see. Boil over. While being picked up by the killer, they can't see hooks within 16 meters. And your struggles are increased by, I believe, 75? I believe. So basically the killer, it's really hard for them to move you. It's like your queso and you're on their shoulders. I think this is just an overall good perk. I mean, you might as well slap it on. It delays the killer a tiny bit. Also, when the killer drops from a great height while carrying you, it gives you 33% of what your current progress is. Empathic connection, I believe that's how you say it. Anyone injured can see your aura within 96 meters, and you heal people 10% faster. I already think this is better than empathy. I mean, they see you, so you don't have to do anything. They come to you. Not only that, but you also heal them a bit quicker. I'm going to give this B tier. It's better than empathy in my mind. Iron Will. Again, the tier list that I saw earlier gave Iron Will S tier. That is a complete lie. Old Iron Will? Yes. This Iron Will? No. Iron Will reduces your grunts of pain by 75% while injured, which honestly is good. It doesn't work when exhausted. That's the problem. Now, we're going off of the perk by itself, which actually helps it because you're not going to be exhausted if you're only using Iron Will. So, I will give this A tier. It's not S tier by any means, though. I'll give it A tier. Blood Rush. If you are Death Hook and healthy and exhausted, if you press the activate ability button, same as Dead Hard, you're not exhausted anymore. Again, by itself, this literally doesn't do anything. So I'm going to give it F tier. Alright. Diversion. I think it's 30 seconds? 20 seconds? Let's say 30. After being in the killer's tear radius for 30 seconds, it's active. If you're crouching and motionless and you press the activate ability button, it throws a pebble. If the killer is within 20 meters of that pebble, they'll get a noise notification and scratch marks will be where that pebble is. So it's just to distract the killer. I'm going to give it B tier because, first of all, you have to be in their tear radius. Second of all, they have to be within a certain range. And then when they see that there's just a little pile of scratch marks, they're going to know this is the diversion. And they're not going to fall for it anymore, most likely. Boon Shadow Step. Again, another boon. I'll put boons in B tier off base, but then move them around later. Shadow Step. It's a boon. You got to set it up. It can be stepped out immediately. Again, as I said with the other two boons, this is really bad because, you know, it takes you 16 seconds that you could be working on a gen, and then the killer could just get rid of it in half a second. So, already horrible. Also, Shadow Step, just like Exponential, requires heavily on RNG. If you're in, let's say, Hawkins, it's amazing. If you don't know what it does, it hides your scratch marks when you're within the 24 meters of the boon. So if you're on an indoor map, it's amazing. If you're on an outdoor map, it's horrible. Blast Mine. After doing 50% of a generator, you can get off of it and then press the activate ability button, and it puts a flashbang on it, pretty much. If the killer kicks that gen within a certain time limit, it explodes, blinding them. And that's all it does. And I mean, if you're going to be doing gens anyways, if you see the killer's tear radius, you quickly get off and put it on it. So it pisses off the killer, and it wastes their time a little bit. We're Gonna Live Forever. That's the name. This one might be hard to remember. Okay. You heal people in the dying state 100% quicker. So it's 2 botany knowledges for dying people. But they also get 10 seconds of endurance after you revive them, but only if you do the following. If you get a safe unhook. If you get unhooked, I think. If you fully heal someone. If you take a protection hit. There's just a lot of things you can do. It's really complicated of a perk. I'm just going to put it in C tier. Autodidact. I'm going to put Autodidact in A. I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about that. What Autodidact does is it gives you negative 25% when hitting a skill check. That does sound pretty bad, but every time you hit a skill check, it gives you 15%. So it goes from negative 25 to negative 10 to plus 5, then plus 20, then plus 35, and then plus 50. Meaning, after you have 5 tokens, hitting a skill check gives you an entire 50% of a heal. That's insane. Now, granted, it is really difficult to get skill checks sometimes. Sometimes you get none. Sometimes you get all 4 or 5. I mean, it's just really... It's very RNG, but once you have all 5 tokens, it's insane, so I'm keeping it there. Hyperfocus. Whenever you hit a great skill check, the skill check cursor speed is increased by 4%, and the likeliness of getting a skill check is also increased by 4%. But every time you hit a great skill check, it gives you 30% of what that great skill check is worth. I don't actually know what great skill checks are worth, but let's just say 100%, okay? I know that's not correct. Let's just say a great skill check gives you... No, let's say 3%. So, let's say a great skill check gives you 3%. After hitting a great skill check, that adds 33% of the 3, which means you'll get an extra 1, so 4%, and just so on. Of course, the speed messes you up quite a bit and makes you miss. I'm going to put it in B. Red Herring is F. After doing a gen for, I think, 3 seconds, the gen is now yellow to you. If you get inside of a locker, the gen has a noise notification for the killer on it. So you can use it to distract the killer if it's a gen with no progress, but what's the likeliness that that's going to work? Probably not a lot. Breakdown. Dude. B. After being unhooked, the hook is broken for 3, 2? I think it's 2. The hook is broken for 2 minutes, maybe 3. And then you see the killer's aura for, I think, 8 seconds. I think that's very good. Power struggle. After reaching 15% of your wiggle progress, if the killer walks over a pallet, you can drop it on them, stunning them. I mean, that's very good. But once you do it once, the killer's obviously not going to go under a pallet anymore. That's the downside. Spine chill. When the killer is looking at you, within 36 meters, it highlights. So it's really good if it's a stealth killer. So it gives you pretty good information. I'm going to put it in B. Scavenger. If you have an empty toolbox and hit 5 great skill checks, the toolbox refills, but your repair speed is slowed by 50% for 30 seconds. But after that 30 seconds is over, you have a nice, juicy toolbox. I think this is a solid B tier. Wake up. You open exit gates 25% faster, and you can see their aura within 128 meters. That is just, there's no downside. There's no downside there. Overzealous. After cleansing a totem, you repair 10% faster. If it's a hex totem, you repair 20% faster. Okay. Now, you can also bless them. So I think this is... Well, no. If we're going off the perk alone, I have to remember that. So you're going to be cleansing. So I'm going to put it in C tier. Aftercare. After being healed, healing someone else, being unhooked, or unhooking someone else, you both see each other's aura until you are hooked. So it's pretty much a bond that's infinite range, but if you're hooked, it's gone. I do think that's pretty good, to be honest. Solidarity. I think this is so underrated. More people need to use this. When healing someone, you also gain 50% of the healing. So if you full heal someone and you're injured, you're going to then be at 50%. So you're saving 8 whole seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot, but again, in this game, that is a lot. I'm putting in that in A. Reactive healing. If someone is injured within 32 meters of you, you gain 50% of the progress that you're missing. So if you're missing all of your progress, you get 50. If you're missing 50, then you get 25, and so on. Now, I don't know if this is a bug or if they fixed it yet, but if someone's grabbed out of a locker and you have reactive healing and you're injured, it insta-heals you. A lot of people think it's a bug, which I do, but here's my logic as to why it might not be a bug. It gives you 50% of what you're missing. If the person is healthy and they get grabbed out of a locker, they're technically losing 2 health states because they're healthy. They immediately get grabbed, which means they're losing 2 health states. And since they're losing it all at once, you get the 50, but since it's at the same time, you also get the other 50, so it insta-heals you. So I don't think it's a bug. I think that's how it's meant to be. They're losing 2 health states all at once, right? So it would make sense. So I'm going to give it A. Parental guidance. After stunning the killer by any means, includes wiggling off and decisive strike, which we're going off of one perk, but you know. After stunning the killer by any means, your scratch marks, pools of blood, and grunts of pain are hidden for 7 seconds. I think this is another very underrated perk. You know, it's super good. Just if you stun the killer at a god pallet, turn the corner, they don't know where you went. Better together. I think it's 32 meters. Yes, when you're on a generator, your teammates can see it highlighted in yellow within 32 meters. And if a teammate is downed, I don't think this has a range, but if a teammate is downed, you see everyone's aura, not the killers. If you see all the other survivors' auras for 10 seconds. I think this is a very good perk. Fast track. After one of your teammates is hooked, you gain 3 tokens. Each token gives you 3% extra when you hit a great skill check. 3% is probably a good 5 seconds, I'd say. So it's really not that worth it. You're using your teammate's pain to help you. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put this in D tier. Just off the bat, I'm putting in D tier. The reason I'm putting Illumination in D tier is because it's another boon. I'm not even going to say it anymore. The boons give you a disadvantage because of the reasons I've already stated. This When you're inside the range, it shows you every gen and every chest on the map. It's a good info perk, but you have to set up a boon for it. I think it's just better to run Visionary or Plunder's Instinct, because that doesn't have an activation requirement. So, yeah. Deliverance. Used to be an S tier perk. I wouldn't say so much anymore. I have the curse of Deliverance, you know? So, after safely unhooking someone, the next time you're hooked in your first strike, you can unhook yourself, and you're broken for 80 seconds. So, it's a guaranteed unhook, but you have to not have the curse. The curse is when you get targeted first. I always get attacked first when I have this perk. You really need someone else to get hooked first, because you can't use it in second stage, which I think they should make it to where Deliverance can be used in second stage, because the anti face camp meter you can use in second stage, so why can't you use Deliverance, right? I'm not gonna lie, I had to look up the name of this one because I never used Toledo's perks. This is called Friendly Competition. After you complete a gen with someone else, you and that other person get 5% repair speed for 75 seconds. 75 seconds, they either need to increase that or they need to increase the percentage to 10, because 5% is like almost nothing. I'm sorry, but Toledo's perks are just so bad. If there's any if you're like thinking of a new survivor to get, do not pick Toledo. She has the worst perks in the entire game. They're so bad. Pharmacy, one of Quentin's perks, you know? If you're injured, and you open it, when injured, you open chests 80% faster, and you are guaranteed to get a green medkit. A nice, easy heal. It's much better than self-care. I'm putting it in A tier. Actually, no, I'm going to move it down to B, because there is only 3 chests on the map. Of course, if you guys put down coin offerings, it helps a little bit, but the killer can easily get rid of those with cut coins. So, yeah. Bond. You can see your teammates' auras within 36 meters. It's a nice, easy to act. Well, there is no activation requirement, so I mean, it's just a very easy to use information perk, just like Windows. I forgot the name. Shadow Step. No. Dark Theory. So it's another boon. Already brings it down to B. When inside of the boon's range, you move 2% quicker. A lot of people sleep on this perk, in my opinion. I think it's a pretty damn good perk. Everyone was like raving about old made for this, how it was like 3%. Woo. This gives you 2%. It's just green made for this. 2% can still make a big difference. I mean, everyone thought 3% was amazing with made for this. This is just 1% less. So how is it any worse? You know? So I'm putting in B tier. Better than new. I do remember the name of that one. After healing someone, the healed person opens chest, cleanses totems, unhooks, heals 16% faster. I don't think anything else. Let's just say they do a lot of things 16% faster. I do think this is a pretty bad perk, to be honest. 16% is not a lot, especially for unhooking. That doesn't really do much. Plot twist. I really want to put this S tier just because it's so funny, and I use it all the time, just because it's funny. You could just plot twist in front of the killer, and they're just like, what? What it does. When you're injured, and you crouch, and you press the activate ability button 2, you die on the floor. You do it silently, so the killer doesn't know where you are, and you have no grunts of pain, again, so the killer doesn't know where you are. And you can fully recover from the dying state, and it instantly heals you to full health and not injured, like Unbreakable would. And it gives you haste. It gives you 50% haste for, I believe, 4 seconds. So, I mean, it's better than Unbreakable, that's for sure. Because you do it on command, and you're guaranteed to get it off as long as the killer doesn't have Deerstalker. And after you do it once, it's deactivated for the rest of the trial until the exit gates are opened. Not opened, until the last gen's done. Once the last generator is done, you can reuse it. So it can be used 2 times. I'm going to put it in A. Inner focus, I'm sorry, I'm putting this in F. You can see your teammates' scratch marks, and if someone is down, if your teammate's down within, I think, 32 meters of you, you can see the killer's aura. Not good. Metal Man, I think this is going to here for now. After taking 3 protection hits, which means it has to be an injured person. If you protect a healthy person, it does not give you a protection hit. I think that should be changed, because you're still protecting them. Of course, it's not as good as protecting an injured person, but it's still protecting them. So yeah, you have to body block for an injured person 3 times. Now, keep in mind, if the killer is carrying someone, that counts as an injured person. So you do get a stack if you do that. So if you go up to a person on the hook, if you go up to someone that the killer's carrying, take a hit, that's already 1. If you use a styptic agent on a med kit, that's 2 right there. Boom. Now you only have to take 1, and then your perk's activated. It's amazing. I'm actually going to put that in B tier just because of all the things I just said. Residual Manifest. When you blind the killer, they have the blindness status effect for 30 seconds. Now, the first time I saw this perk, I was like, they're blind for 30 seconds? But then I was like, no, it's the blindness effect. They can't see auras for 30 seconds. Which, I mean, if you blind them right before they pick someone up or something, they can't see hooks. So if you're on an indoor map, it could be tricky for them. And let's say the killer has Franklin's or something. If you can rummage through a chest, meaning you open it once, take the item out, you can rummage through it. It guarantees you a yellow flashlight. So, I mean, it's decent. Premonition. I think it's 40 meters. If you look in the direction of the killer within 40 meters, it makes a noise, and it goes on cooldown for, like, I think 30 seconds. It's a very niche beginner perk, pretty much. It's a pretty bad beginner perk. Blood Pact. If you or the obsession is healed, you see each other. After you heal the obsession or the obsession heals you, you move 7% faster within 16 meters. If you exit the 16 meter range, you lose the haste. So this is pretty good. Against a hag or a huntress, I think hag moves 110, right? I already said that before. I don't know if they actually do. But yeah, you move 107 instead of 100. It's pretty damn good, personally. A lot of people sleep on this perk, too. I mean, it's not amazing, you know? Because 16 meters, if you're in solo queue, your teammates are probably stupid. No offense to them. I love all you guys, but you guys kind of suck sometimes. Your teammates are probably going to leave the 16 meter range immediately. Plunder's Instinct, I'm going to give it F tier, I'm sorry. My main focus during matches is unhooking, healing, and gens. That's the main 3 right there. Well, you could just say 2. Gens and altruistic actions. It shows you chests, auras, and pink within 32 meters, and it gives you a better item. So instead of a gray medkit, it might give you a green one or a yellow. You know, it's a very niche beginner perk, in my opinion, just like Premonition. Deception. A lot of people don't like Deception. I don't know why. If you run past a locker and press the get in locker button, it opens the locker doors and slams them. Your scratch marks are hidden for 3 seconds after that. So, the killer might check the locker, and it's very funny. It gives a lot of funny plays. Of course, it's not that useful, but it's funny, so I'm going to raise it up above D, because I was going to put it D. Visionary, you see generators' auras within 32 meters, and after a gen's done, it goes on cooldown for, I think, 10 seconds. It's just another niche beginner perk, again, if you don't know where any gen spawns are. Low profile. When you're the last one standing, that doesn't mean last one alive, it means last one standing. So let's say one teammate's dead, one's on the hook, and one just got downed. That downed guy, he's not standing, he's on his stomach. So you're the only one standing. Your grunts of pain, scratch marks, and pools of blood are hidden for 90 whole seconds. And let's say that person that's downed got up with Unbreakable or something, or you revived them. You still have that 90 seconds, or however much time you have left. It does not go away if someone gets picked up, is what I'm saying. I do think a lot of people also sleep on this perk. Of course, you have to be the last one standing up, so, I mean, it is kind of difficult to activate sometimes. I'm going to put it here. Teamwork, Collective Stealth. After someone heals you, you do not leave scratch marks while within 12 meters of each other. Now, that sounds amazing, doesn't it? It does. It sounds really good. So you're probably like, Fearlxss, why are you putting it in F tier? Because the cooldown is 140 seconds. You can literally do 2 entire gens before this perk is off of cooldown. Ace in the hole. When you open a chest, you're guaranteed to get, I think, a green add-on, and then you have a 50% chance of getting a gray or higher. It's just it's another like weird side objective perk. Like, I don't go for chess personally, so I'm putting that there. Teamwork Power of 2, Toledo's perk, F tier. I'm sorry. It's F tier. Same as Renato's. But instead of someone healing you, you have to heal someone else. When you heal someone else, you both get 5% haste, which sounds incredible, but the cooldown is 140 seconds, and then they still have that 12-meter range. So if they leave 12 meters, it's gone. I think they should up the meter thing to like 16, like Blood Pact, and maybe it could be bearable. Or they should lower the cooldown to like 1 minute, because even 1 minute is pretty long for this perk. Appraisal. You have 3 tokens. And just like Residual Manifest, you can rummage through chests. And you do it 80% faster. So you take the item out, and you can rummage through the chest 80% quicker than normal. And every time you do it, it takes away a token. So you can rummage through 3 chests. Again, another just shitty perk for chests. Technician. It used to be really good, by the way. Technician it used to be amazing. Now, not so much. All right. Your generator repairs are heard 8 meters less. I don't know what distance the generator repairs are heard from now. Let's just say 16 for the sake of this. So they're heard at 8 meters now instead. Missing a skill check is completely silent. The killer does not get a notification. But if you miss a skill check, it gets rid of 3% extra, which is fine. It's not that hard to get back 3%, but I still don't think this is worth running unless you're like really new to the game and you're bad at skill checks, because it won't alert the killer. With Deadline, it's pretty bearable, but, you know, we're not on that yet by itself. Rookie Spirit. After hitting 3 good or great skill checks, this activates for the rest of the trial. You see the aura of regressing generators. And honestly, I don't really use this that much. It actually isn't that bad sounding. It's really not that bad sounding, you know? Like, you see regressing generators, you can go stop them from regressing. I honestly don't think it's that bad. I just don't really use it. I'll put it in B. I don't use it personally. Self-preservation. If someone is injured within 16 meters of you, you leave no pools of blood and scratch marks for, I think, 16 seconds. Or no, 10 seconds. I believe 10 seconds. Either way, it's not a good perk. I'm sorry. Chemical Trap. This is the only Ripley perk that's actually decent. After doing 50% of a generator, same as Flashbang and every other gen perk, pretty much, you can put a trap on a downed pallet. If the killer kicks that pallet with the trap on it, they are hindered, which means slowed, by, I believe, 20%. No, I think they were slowed by 50%. That sounds right. They're slowed by 50% for 4 seconds. So, I mean, I do think this is a pretty good perk. I'll put it in B tier. Because, again, you have to activate it by doing a gen, which is not bad, because you're going to be doing gens regardless. But, you know, I don't think you can see the bottom right here because I had to zoom out and things. Quick Gambit. When you were when you're in chase, any person working on a gen within 36 meters gets 8% repair speed. And I'm sorry, this is going in F tier. It's just completely useless. Slippery Meat. This perk is more useful than that. Slippery Meat gives you 3 extra unhook attempts on hook. If you don't know, you get 3 unhook attempts off base. This makes it 6. So you can attempt to unhook 6 times. And it gives you 4% extra luck when unhooking yourself. Luck off of base is already 4%. So this makes it 8. So you have almost a 1 in 10 chance to unhook yourself. And you have 6 tries. So, I mean, it's not likely you're going to unhook yourself, but, I mean, it's better than having 4% and 3 unhooks. I'm going to put this in D tier. Counterforce. You cleanse totems 20% faster, and whenever a totem is cleansed, you see the totem furthest away from you for, I think, 5 seconds. And every time you cleanse a totem, you get an additional 20% speed to cleanse. I hate those survivors that always complain about NOED. Like, bro, run Counterforce or Small Game. Mainly Counterforce, because it increases the speed at which you cleanse. So, like, bro, just run Counterforce. I do think this is C tier, though. It's only for hexes, really. I don't really get people that do that. Alright, this is not happening. It's going in F tier, I'm sorry. When injured, great skill checks are 30% bigger. Up the ante, I'm going to put an F tier because it's just, like, it gives you 3% luck per survivor other than yourself. So 9%. Invocation, weaving, spiders. You know, the new effect is it puts let's just say it puts a brand new part on every gen when you're in the basement. That came out very weird. If you go to a circle in the basement and sit there for 2 entire minutes, it puts a brand new part on every gen, but you're broken for the rest of the match. I do personally think this is going to be an A tier perk. A lot of people aren't saying so. I do think it is. Champion of Light. When shining a flashlight, you move 50% quicker. And when blinding the killer, they are hindered for, I think, 4 seconds by 20%. Very nice. It's just nice if you're using a flashlight. And it also works with flashbangs too. But again, you know, only the perk. Deadline. When you're injured, skill checks are 10% more likely to appear, and they are random on the screen. They can't be backwards like the doctor, so they don't go counterclockwise. They only go clockwise, but they're just randomly placed too. And if you miss a skill check, the penalty is reduced by 50%. I'm going to put this in C tier, because like by itself, I don't think it's that good. If you combine it with Technician, Technician is actually like an S tier perk then, but by itself, no. And there we have it. There we have it. I hope all of you enjoyed this video. Please try to refrain from putting hate comments. If you don't like the way my tier list is, then just make your own tier list and put the perks the way you want them to be. And yeah, anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed, and I will see all of you in the next video. Bye-bye.